What's going on, guys? Your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to another video on the channel, and we've got my 1-3 buy-in ready to start the session. We're sitting at a pretty deep stacked table, and it's early in the day, so we're gonna see how it goes. But regardless, gonna start up another 1-3 session. Hopefully run good. Hopefully the background noise isn't too bad. I'm gonna try to find a more quiet spot to do some hand analysis and intros and outros and stuff like that, because there's just a lot of background noise on the floor here. But anyways, we're gonna hop into the session. Hopefully things go well. Hopefully I can record some mid-session updates and stuff like that, just to mix things up. I feel like I think the videos so far have gotten pretty monotonous, but anyways, another video on the bankroll challenge. Wish me luck. Hopefully I play good, and let's do it. The first thing we'll go over here, I sit down, there is a pretty big stack to my direct left, and there's another big stack in early position in this spot when I'm in the big blind with ace-7 of hearts with an under the gun straddle. So under the gun player, big stack, early position player, another big stack as well, and he's a pretty competent player as well. So this early position player opens it up to $25, folds back to the button, who is basically playing 95% of his hand. He calls and actions onto me. I know I have to 3-bet this spot all the time here, just gotta mix it in out of position as well with a suited ace. So obviously, following my instincts, I flapped because I'm an idiot. And we're gonna go 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes Jack 7-3 rainbow. I have middle pair and a backdoor flush draw. So I check. Early position player bets $40, and the button calls. When the button calls, I think I'm given a really great price to just continue. Hope there's a lot of good turn cards, so I flat as well. So we're gonna go 3 ways back to a turn, which is a 3 of diamonds. Not the best card for us, obviously, and action actually checks all the way around. When I check, early position player checks, so interesting, where I think I'm beat here a lot of the time, but we go heads up 3 ways to a river, which is the 4. So basically a complete brick, and I've got middle pair here, second pair. So I check. The early position player bets $85. The button folds, and this is a pretty standard fold, especially when the button folds, thinking about it now. And I mean, obviously there's more likely that if the button folds, then this early position player has a jack or just has me beats. But just not believing him, knowing that he is capable of some bluffs, and it's basically my first hand of the session. I call for I don't know why I called this $85, and he shows Jack 9 of diamonds, and he takes it down with top pair. So donated some money in the first hand, played that horribly, and we're moving on. Following hand after that, I have pocket 9s in the cutoff with about 450 in my stack. And there's 2 limpers to me. I am going to raise it up to $20. We have the small blind who calls, and the big blind ends up 3-betting to $65. He's a pretty big stack, good player from last hand, and the hijack who limped, he's playing every hand. He makes the call, $65, and acting onto me. I'm in position with a pretty good price to just set mine, I think, in this spot. Only 45 more to call, so given the stack sizes, that's what I do. I call to set mine, and we're gonna go 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes King 10-6 rainbow, not the board I'm looking for, and the big blind leads up for $70. The hijack makes the call because he likes calling, and I'm obviously getting out of the way here, never good. And the turn is a queen. Big blind leads again for $150, and the hijack folds, so unfortunate there. Kind of dusted off $45, but that's how the hand went. Following hand, we have pocket jacks in the hijack, and there's 1 limper to me. I'm gonna raise it up to $18 on the bigger side, knowing that this limper is basically gonna call any raise that I make, like 100% of the time. The cutoff is pretty active, and also a really big stack and covers me. He calls as well, so obviously limper calls. He's playing 95% of the hands, so let's go 3 ways to a flop of 4, 5, 7, 2 diamonds out there. Pretty wet and connected board, but realistically, with my overpair against these 2 very active players, I should be good here majority of the time, so I decide to c-bet $35, and only the cutoff calls. The turn is an ace of spades, and it's interesting when the cutoff decides now we're heads up. There's some interesting table talk and dynamics going on where he basically asked me how much I'm gonna bet on this card, and that the moment I bet, he's gonna put me all in. Very interesting. I don't see him being strong ever from the demeanor and manner. It just seemed like he was really weak and hated that card, and just seemed like he had a lot of equity in terms of drawing. So
For all those reasons, I decided to just fire normally for $75, and he thinks for a little bit, and he says that it's such a small bet, but makes only the call and flats it. So I'm hoping to fade a bunch of cards here, hopefully, just any diamond or any card that's really connected, and my jacks should be good here a lot of the time. But so we're gonna go heads up to a river, which is the 8 of diamonds. It is the worst card in the deck for me. Not only does it complete the flush draw, obviously, but also there's 4-liner to a straight, so not really great. I check, and he jams, putting me all in. Pocket jacks here is just never good. So I fold, and he shows pocket 8s. So he had a gutter ball and hit his set draw as well. So he takes it down, unfortunately. Following it after that, we have 10-7 of diamonds in the small blind. The hijack limps, and the cutoff, who is extremely active playing every hand, decides to raise up to $15, knowing that there's no excuse. I don't know why I played this hand, but I called the 15 in the small blind with 10-7 of diamonds. That's unfortunate. And the hijack also calls. So we're gonna go 3 ways out of position to a flop of King 8-3 Rainbow. Not a board that I connect with at all, and action ends up actually checking all the way around. So we're gonna go to a turn, which is the 4 diamonds. It brings in the backdoor flush draw. So with my equity and possibly just trying to maximize fold equity, I just bet $25, and only the cutoff calls. Hoping to hit my diamonds and go runner on him. I'm clearly behind with 10 high, and the river is a jack diamonds, really great card. Flush completes and gets there, so I bet for value $55, and he decides to raise it up to $125. Oh man, there's no way that I'm beat here, right? Knowing that 1-2 players never raise on the river as a bluff, but I do have a flush, and it's a little disguised as well. Not really sure what his value hands are besides higher flushes, but I decided to call. It was only like 70 more, it's only 70 more, so yeah, I just kind of have to call in this spot. He shows ace queen of diamonds, and he takes it down, so got valued there by higher diamonds, but that's what you get for playing 10-7 suited, right? Hand after that, we have Jack 6 offsuit on the big blind. We're showing some very questionable hands, but I can actually defend this one. It's a 6-way limped pot, so I'm forced to play this hand. So yeah, forced to play this hand. We're gonna go 6 ways, multi-way to a flop of Queen 10-9 Rainbow. Flopping the open-ender, really great flop for us, and the small blind checks. Really great opportunity for me to just donk lead here, or not really donk lead, just lead and bet. I have an uncapped range in the big blind, and who knows what I could have. So I bet $15, and we get a small blind and a middle position player caller. So we're just gonna go 3 ways to a turn, which is a 3. At this point, there's gotta be someone else with a jack, and I think we can fold out jacks, and I can fold out, I guess, like 1 pair hands, like queens as well. So when the small blind checks to me, I bet $35. Trying to fold out jacks and represent a strong hand, and the middle position player gets out of the way, but the small blind calls. So we're still gonna go heads up to a river, which is another queen, so top pair is paired, and really interesting card, because she bets $55, and given my line here, I think I can bluff her off of any weak queen. She's in the small blind, so her range isn't as uncapped, but still pretty wide, and she's either one of 2 things, has a pretty weak queen or has a jack trying to turn it into a bluff, but I don't see that really being a possibility. So at the end of the day, I decided to just triple barrel here and go for it. Like I said, with the same logic that not many 1-2 players ever raise on the river as a bluff, I decided to raise it up to 150. Pretty small, not really the sizing I would have loved, but it looks like value. I'm trying to rep value. And if she calls with trip queens, good call for her. But at the end of the day, I'm repping boats and straights. That's kind of it. So given my line, I've been betting the first 2 straights, and when she leads into me, I look really strong raising her on this river. So I just went for it. She tanks for a good while and decides to make the laydown and fold. So we finally get one through, and we take it down. I think it's like the first hand that I won this session so far. This hand gets very dicey and interesting, so let's just get into it. We are in the small blind with ace king offsuit with about 600 in our stack. The undergun player opens it up to $15. He is sitting with about $1,700 in front of him, so pretty big stack. And there's 3 callers to me, and sitting here out of position, I've got to squeeze and 3-bet this spot 100% of the time. So I decided to 3-bet to $85. And the big blind, once again, he was a very active player to my left. Also really big stack, has about 1,700, 1,500 in front of him as well. So he cold calls by 85. And the under the gun player also calls, and action is onto the button, who jams $134 total. And not much to do. Everyone else calls because you can't really do anything else. So we're gonna go 4 ways to a flop, 1 all in, and everyone else is a monster stack and covers me. So we go to a flop, which is Queen 8-5, 2 diamonds out there. Not the best cards for me at all, not the best flop, so just not really able to see bet here. So I check, and action actually ends up checking all the way around. We go to a turn, which is another queen, and now I'm in a decision where I can try to fold out the other 2 players, but realistically, that's not gonna help me out at all, because I still have to worry about the player who jammed on the button, and I just don't have much showdown. So I decided to just check. The big blind checked as well, and the under the gun bets 125. Super small sizing, and I just can't fold. I can't call, I mean, so I lay it down, and the big blind ends up making the call, so we do get to see at least a little more action. The river is a 5, doesn't change anything at all. It's a double paired board now, and action goes check, check. Big blind shows 10-9 of clubs. The button shows pocket deuces for the board now. She just kind of got screwed. And the under the gun player shows pocket 6s, and he takes down everything with the pair of 6s. So looking back on it, if I knew exactly what they had, obviously it's an easy C bet, and I take it down and I go runner runner to scoop the pot against deuces. But this was an interesting hand that I really just couldn't. It's an interesting hand that I don't really know what to do with, because I just didn't think that those ranges were that wide. Didn't think that the big blind would cold call a 3-bet with 10-9. Given all of that, pocket 6s takes it down, and that was wild. If you thought that last hand was interesting, this one is also pretty entertaining as well, so let's just get into it. I'm in the big blind with ace-5 of clubs, and there's an under the gun straddle, the player to my left very active. So once again, we're finding spots out of position here. It's not great, but that's the only time we're getting decent hands. So there's 4 limpers to me of the straddle, and I am going to raise it up to $40 here, just trying to thin out the size of the field. And the under the gun player, he fakes jamming. I don't know. He has like 1,400 in front of him, and he fakes jamming. I don't know what that was, and he just makes the call. Given the fact that I have about like 500 in my stack, give or take, so if he was gonna make that jam, it's pretty big. And the button, who, once again, playing 95% of his hands, calls as well. So we're 3 ways to a flop of 3, 4, 6, 2 clubs out there. We flop the absolute world. So, obviously never going anywhere. We love this flop. I am going to lead up for $75 out of position. Just gonna bet for value, and just, I've got all the equity in the world here. I bet for 75. Under the gun pretty quickly jams, and he covers me. Obviously he has 1,400 in front, so he jams, putting me all in. The button gets out of the way, and I snap call. Loving this spot, especially against a very active player who can have anything. So I'm assuming my ace as an over is pretty good, and obviously nut flush draw and the open ender to go along with that as well. And we go to a run out really quickly. Turn gives us immediate help. It's a 9 of clubs, so right then and there we have the nuts. Turn, and the river is a 10, and pretty insignificant. He shows ace-6 offsuit for flop top pair, top kicker. Overplayed it, and we take it down with our nut flush. So that was nice. Shortly after that hand, we're in the cutoff, so finally found ourselves in position, but we're playing a pretty trash hand, 7-4 of clubs. I don't know why, man. Don't ask me questions, all right? Don't comment below why I'm playing 7-4 and 10-7, all right? It's a call happy game. But anyways, it's a 6-way limped pot, so we're in position, all right? I only committed $3, and I put $3 in the middle. So we're gonna go to a flop of queen 4-4, 2 spades. Flopping trips, and there's a flusher out there, and action checks all the way to me. I check it to close the action. Ask me why I checked? I don't know, man. Don't ask me questions. But I check, and we're still gonna have 6 ways to a turn, which is a 7 of diamonds. We get bailed out, and we boat up. So now we really have to go for value, but the small blind actually ends up leading out and betting $10, and it folds all the way back to me. There's a backdoor flush draw as well, so 2 flush draws out there, and I'm sitting with a boat, gotta go for value, and obviously I missed some sort of value bet on the flop because I'm an idiot. But regardless, I raised the $40. He doesn't take too long before making the call, so once he calls this, I think he's got a pretty static range at the very least. Regardless, let's go to a river, which is a jack of diamonds, and he checks to me. Going for value here, I like that the flush draw came in for sure, but I think it's really hard to fold a 4 regardless if he does have one, so I bet 125. I like my sizing a lot, just overbetting the pot and going for value, making up for that missed value bet on the flop there. He quickly makes the call, and I show, and I take it down. Last hand of the session we'll go over here. I have Jack 8 of hearts on the button. Once again, we're playing these very marginal, mediocre hands, but it's a 4-way limped pot, so not a whole lot happened. I'm in position, suited Jack, let's do it. Let's go to a flop of ace 6 deuce 2 hearts. So we do flop the Jack high flush draw, and we're feeling pretty confident, especially with the ace of hearts out there. So action checks to me. I am going to bet massive, bet huge for $7. And $7 whole gets a caller from the small blind and the big blind. So we're 3 ways to a turn, giving us immediate help. Once again, it's the 9 of hearts, so we get there with our flush, and once again, action checks all the way to me. Going for slim value, I mean, with our flush, just gotta keep betting and getting calls. So I bet $15 and only the small blind calls. The river's a 4, and once again, he checks to me. Going for a little bit of value that I can get. Maybe worse flushes can call, but realistically, put him on some sort of hand that had a higher flush, or a higher, like a king or queen of hearts. That's kind of it. I thought he was maybe going for that. So I bet $35. And without much thinking, he raises to $100. And he only has about $100 behind as well. So why am I getting into these spots? Well, that's because I choose to play these horrible trash cards, but it's weird. Just don't feel good about it. He's not the player type to really ever bluff much, and especially in this specific situation, I don't think anyone's ever bluffing here. So he's either got the queen or king of hearts, and it's really gross because I do have a pretty good flush, but that bet, it just looks like value, like so much value. Like, oh my god, it screams value. So don't feel really good about the situation ever, and don't think he's bluffing ever. So I'm behind here a lot of the time, and just didn't feel good about it. So for all those reasons, I decided to just fold. I fold face up, just showing that I laid down my jack high flush. And I asked him after the hand, I asked him what he had, and he said he had the king high flush. So he could be lying, but I was just so convinced that he wasn't bluffing here. He's not going to overplay a 10 high flush. And there's no other value hands besides a king or queen of hearts, you know. So he takes it down, and we get away from that one and making a pretty good fold, I think, in my opinion.
Back in the garage, just cashed out, and the game was good. All right, I'm sure you guys have seen, or after watching the video, you know that the game was good. Oh my god, that first table, that dude was sitting with 3K. Like, how do you sit with 3K on a 1-3 table? That's absurd. When I was walking in, when I first sat down, the player to my right, or my left actually, had 1,700, 1,500, whatever it was a lot. And then the player that ended up having 3K had like 1,700 as well. They were pretty even stacked, and things happened. So it was a very fun table. It was good while it lasted. Unfortunately, it didn't last one of the players just got up and, you know, the game kind of fell off from there. But from that table, I booked like a $200 win. I started off so bad. I was in the game for 900, all right? It's never good to be in the game for 900, but I ended up only playing for like 4.5 hours, something like that. 4.5 hours, in for 900, out for 963, booking a massive win. Massive win for the bankroll challenge. Whatever, green's green, it is what it is, and we can't always run it up super hot all the time, right? Or else that's just like not fair. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. I'm glad you made it this far.
Don't want to mislead.